Hello, everyone. Welcome to Town Talk, the official podcast of Summerville, South Carolina. And this is where we bring you the latest news, events, and interviews with people who make our town special. I'm Chris Mikowski, the town's public information officer, and your host for the town's new podcast. Before we go into today's episode, I would like to just kind of share a little bit about myself so the community knows who the voice is behind the new podcast. And so, like I said earlier, my name is Chris Mikowski. I am the public information officer. I've been here for about 3 months now. Before I came to Somerville, I was with the town of Kiawah Island, and I was their communications manager there. I have about 6 years of public relations experience under my belt. I am from Erie, Pennsylvania. If anyone's familiar, the top left-hand corner. Wanted to move away from the snow, so I decided to move down south. I went to school at Charleston Southern University, graduated, and that's kind of where my career began. I in my in my career so far, I've really spent a lot of time leading rebranding initiatives, website redesigns, communication strategies, crisis communication campaigns, and a whole array of public relations projects that I've had my hand on. But when I was with the town of Kiawah Island, I actually started the first low country municipal based podcast. And it was called Sharing with the Community, a podcast from the town of Kiawah Island. And I decided to build that podcast to help the community build trust with the municipality. And I edited, hosted, and created what it is today. And so when I came to Somerville, I wanted to do the same thing, but I wanted to build off of what I've learned and make it even better. So that's where we're at today. Um, in a nutshell, I'm definitely a person that's driven by and has a passion for effective communication, and I really do have a commitment to the community. I really do believe in the power of informed communities, and really spend a lot of time dedicating and finding the best ways to connect with residents. That could be through innovative use of technology like this podcast here, or tried and true methods. But at the end of the day, I am committed to providing the highest level of service to the Somerville community. And I'm very excited to introduce this to the community and to the town. And so, welcome to Town Talk. Let's go ahead and start our first episode. In today's episode, we have the honor of speaking with Mayor Waring of the town of Somerville. Mayor Waring has been a driving force behind several important initiatives in our community, and we are super excited to learn more about his vision for our town. Well, welcome to the show, Mayor Waring. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Chris. I'm doing good, doing very good.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to have a conversation with you and to really, learn more about you. Let's start there. Can you just explain to our listeners and me more about yourself and how you became mayor?
Well, that's a long story, really. Um, I was born and raised in Somerville, and I'll try to go through this kind of quickly, but went through school here, and I went to work for the Somerville Fire Department. Actually, I joined the Somerville Fire Department as a volunteer, and then I went to work for the fire department shortly thereafter, and that's how I got started with the town. And of course, I worked for the town for 32 years,
Wow.
and retired, and went about 2 years, and stayed as a volunteer fireman. And after 2 years, I missed being involved. Really,
Yeah.
being a volunteer is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But so I decided to run for town council. So I ran for town council and got elected and stayed on council for 8 years. And that politics kind of got in my blood. I had been involved in politics while I was working for the town because I knew my town father's real good. I'd worked for Mayor Myers for all those years, and he was a close friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I served with him and the rest of the council for 8 years, and then the mayor decided to not run again, so I didn't run myself, and kind of got away from the town a little bit for a few years and staying active in the fire department.
Yeah.
Because I just loved my town and wanted to, contribute,
Mm-hmm.
as much time as I could to help the town.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what happened. And then we, went through a mayor after Mr. Myers, and did good. And then we got another mayor, and the morale with the town just got terrible.
Yeah.
With the employees, and we, went through some hard times. So I had a good friend of mine sign up for mayor, and he was at that time on county council, and I didn't think I just didn't think that he was cut out to get the town straightened out. Our employees were just at the bottom, and so I decided to run for mayor, and that's how it happened. I said I'd run for one term and see if I could get our employees back together. I knew most of them.
Mm-hmm.
The morale was terrible. They were talking to me. Some of them wanted me to run. So I decided to run for mayor, and I got elected. And that's where I am. And I'm finishing up my last year as mayor. And when I get done this time, I'll be 75 years old, so I don't know what I'll do. Whoever gets elected, I'll probably bug them to death. If the good Lord lets me live. But that's where I am. So the town's been my life since I was 19 years old.
Wow.
I love this town, and we've come a long ways since 1970.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2 firemen when I went to work for the town, and we probably got 130 or 40 now. We had 1 fire station. We got 6 now. That's just to give you a little bit of idea of how the town's grown. I can judge it by the fire stations and the firefighters we got and the police officers we got. When I was public safety director, we had probably maybe 10 policemen, 12, 14 policemen, and 15, 20 firemen, So now we up in between the 2 departments, 250. Something like that.
That's insane. And just to hear that you started at 19 years old within the fire department and have been involved with the town since, just shows your dedication to this community and to this town, and I think that's very admirable.
Well, thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah, I bet. And you still got it going, and and I'm sure you're not gonna ease off after you end up after your seat in mayor, right? You're gonna keep involved.
Probably wrong. I'll be bugging somebody unless they take me off to jail or something.
And so you are in your final year, correct? Of your term. What are some initiatives that you've done within your term that you are proud of?
Well, I guess the main one is Berlin Myers Parkway. We that was one of the platforms I ran on. And it had been 16 years since anything had been done with the parkway, and everybody had tried.
Yeah.
Every mayor had tried, every politician that I know of in this area had tried to get that permit for the parkway. And I even had a county councilman tell me, that was chairman, he said, "Man, don't waste your time with that parkway. You're not going to get that permit." And I said, "Well, you don't get anything if you don't try."
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as I got sworn in, I went right to work on that parkway. Terry Jenkins, who's on town council with me now, Jill Weatherford, who was my administrative assistant, she was a great help. I worked her to death. The team that we put together to get that permit, who was Robbie Robbins, who was a highway commissioner for us, for our district in the state, and he knew the right people to contact. We contacted Lindsey Graham, our senator, and the colonel that was over the Army Corps of Engineers. They issued a permit, so they were the big player.
Okay.
And so it just so happened that the colonel was a friendly person, a lady, Colonel Honda. She came up here and met with us and took a liking to us for some reason, and I'm not going to drag this story out, but in a matter of 2.5 years, that's how long it took us. In 2.5 years, with the team we put together, and people from the county, people from the town, people from the state, people from the federal government, that we put together, we put them together, the town of Summerville. We had that permit in hand in 2.5 years.
Wow.
And now the parkway is, I don't know what stage it's in as far as percentage of being completed. I could find out from Trey Banks, who's building the road, but it's going to be a road in the next 3 years, I hope, 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be complete, and it's going to help with the traffic, considerably.
Yeah.
The traffic is building while they're building the road. We get more and more traffic, but it's going to help tremendously. And that's, like I say, that was my main platform was to get that permit. And everybody else tried as hard as I tried, but it was just something that I committed to, and we stayed on it. Every day.
Yeah.
Every day we called somebody. Jill called somebody. I'd
Yeah.
say, Jill, let's call this person today. And she'd call them and she'd stay on the phone. So we just bugged them to death. I think that they got tired of us fooling with them, and they knew we weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And we weren't. And so that was one of the things we did. That was probably the number one priority. Stormwater, we doubled the size of our stormwater department in the first 2 years that I was here. Town council
Wow.
was able to come up with the money, and we doubled the size of that department. Not manpower, but equipment and manpower.
Yeah.
We finance, the budget we doubled the size of, and we're still behind there. I mean, we're way behind. We need equipment. We need manpower. The flooding problems that we have in Summerville are not good.
Mm-hmm.
They're way better. We bought a vac truck this past year. That I forgot how many miles of ditches Russ told me that we'd cleaned out, but we hadn't had a lot of rain. That's been good, so we hadn't been able to test what we've pumped out, but we'll get it tested.
Yeah.
And but we still got a long way to go there. But we're going at it just as hard as we can go, and hopefully in this year's budget we'll be able to get some capital stuff for stormwater.
Good.
So.
No, that's exciting. And one thing I want to touch on that I think is important for our listeners to hear is that you said team, and earlier it's all about collaboration. It's all about having a group together of people that are with the same mindset of getting things done and being a team and working together. And so when it comes to the Parkway, that team effort that was, I would say, was probably the reason in your term you were able to get it done is because of the team of people you put together to get it done. And that's very awesome to hear, and I think a lot of there's a lot of aspects in both the municipality but in our lives where having those group people of team with the same vision to get things done. And so that's really cool.
No question. You can't do anything by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with stuff like that, you gotta build a team.
Yeah.
Your team's gotta want it as bad as you want it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of team we put together. And we met. I think we met on Mondays, but we met just about every Monday, and we'd either meet by phone or meet personally here at City Hall, and we would start calling, and like I told you, we bugged people.
Yeah.
And we bugged the right people, and so everybody was doing their part.
Mm-hmm.
And Summerville can't build a road. We have built a couple of roads,
Mm-hmm.
and we're cutting a ribbon on one Thursday on Maple Street, and it's just about teamwork, and that's the way I've always approached things. And that's how a fire department works, and that's where I learned that a fire department has to work as a team, or they wouldn't get anything done, and somebody would get killed.
Yeah.
So you work as a team, and that's the way we've done things here while I've been mayor, and it works so smoothly.
Yeah.
So
No, I didn't even think about that until you brought it up. But your history in the fire department, that's probably the biggest team. I don't know what the best word to use, but that's a job, and that's a field that you must be a team player.
Oh yeah.
I can see now that your years in the fire department really kind of instilled that teamwork and team mentality, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, no question about it.
Now, we talked about some of the stuff that you've done on your term, and I know you're approaching the end of your term, but what are some things that you're looking forward to in the future for the town? And is there anything that you're working on currently that at the end of your term to kind of set the town up?
Absolutely. We hope, the Dominion property, which is old South Carolina Electric and Gas Company,
Yeah.
That's something else we worked on for a long time, to acquire their property in Summerville, which Dominion owns on the corner of Luke Street and Cedar Street.
Mm-hmm.
We finally ended up with that after a long, long time too, of bugging Dominion and trying to get them to sell us that property. We were trying to get them to give us the property, but that didn't work. But anyway, we got it, and we were thinking for a long, long time that we would probably use that property for a police station and fire station and maybe a court, and that still could happen. I don't know what council will do when I'm gone and the new mayor, but it's certainly an option. But we have that property, but we have been trying to decide what we would do about a new police station. We've outgrown the police station. We've outgrown the fire station. We don't want the court in the town hall. It was supposed to be moved over here for a short period of time. It's been here, I don't know, 10, 12 years. This is not the place for it. And everybody knows that. Everybody on town council right now knows that. So, those are three things. A new fire station, they've outgrown that. A new police station, or a different police station that's got room for what they need, and a courtroom definitely. Those are the things, and to take these buildings right where your office is now and the building next door, and completely remodel them where they become more user-friendly for our citizens and also for our staff that work in these buildings. Those are on the drawing board right now. We've already had them. Somebody came in before me and did an analysis on these buildings to where they would work better to serve the public.
Yeah.
And we might have to redo that. The new council might have to do that. But hopefully they'll address these things first before they look at any more major capital stuff, because they needed doing before I got elected. And so they definitely need doing now, because in 4 years all we've done is grown.
Yeah.
And employees and citizens. So I think those are something hopefully that the council will continue on with, and we can get started on some of those projects after I'm gone.
Yeah, and the town will continue to grow as the rest of the Low Country, as more people migrate here, and then the folks who have migrated here start having families here and building families here. And so it is no surprise to anyone that we're going to continue to grow, not just Summerville, but the surrounding towns and cities as well. We look at the police department and the fire department, and they do need to grow. They do need to get upgraded, because those departments are growing as the rest of the town. What are some other things, maybe 5-10 years down the line, that and this is almost like a like a genie question, right? What do you expect from the town of Summerville in 5 to 10 years? What do you hope for the town of Summerville in the next 5 to 10 years?
I hope that we keep a city council who is very open-minded, and I hope that we keep a citizenry that is very open-minded. And when you got a growing community like we have, that it costs a lot of money to operate it, and towns will set up to furnish police protection, fire protection, pick up your garbage, and do the basic services that the town provides. And as we grow, we start offering other services like recreation and all the nice things that Summerville provides for its citizens. And all that costs a lot of money. And the bigger you get, the more that your citizenry likes to have. And they almost demand it. And in the same token, they don't want to be taxed for it too much.
Yeah.
You know, but a town can only survive, you know, with so much money.
Yep.
So you got to find ways to get money to pay for all these nice things that you got. And just a police department and a fire department are the two biggest things in a city's budget. You know, and you got to keep your city safe, or you won't have a city like Summerville. Summerville's a safe city.
Yeah.
We have our problems now, don't get me wrong. We have our fires, we have our shootings, we have a killing every now and then. Thank goodness it's only every now and then. But we got a great police department. Right now, we got a great police department. We got a Class 1 fire department. That's the best in the nation.
Yeah.
But to keep that, it costs money. And we're underfunded in both departments. But because we got dedicated people in both of those departments, they keep them where they are. But their needs are still lacking.
Yeah.
And we've, over the years, we've had a town council. I know during I was fire chief 25 years, and took that fire department from a little tiny fire department to almost a full paid fire department.
Yeah.
Now, my son, who just retired, who became fire chief years after I retired, took it from some volunteers to a full paid fire department, and took it from a Class 3 fire department where I had it to a Class 1 fire department, fully paid. But he's worked his behind off trying to do that with the staff he's got, because you got to have, the federal government requires you to have minimum staffing. In other words, you got to have so many people on duty around the clock. And so to do that, you shuffling people all the time in the fire department. I'm sure the police department's the same. So Doug's doing a great job in the police department. You know, with the calls he gets, the volume of calls he gets, and if you look at his yearly, I don't think you were here when he gave his yearly report, but it's unbelievable the thousands of calls he answers in the police department. So you take those two departments and they eat up a good chunk of your budget.
Yeah.
You take your salary, they eat up salaries of everybody that works for the town, they eat up the rest of the chunk of the budget. So you got what's left for your parks and recreation and, you know, your public works and all that.
Yeah.
And your budget's gone. And you'll get to see that because we're getting ready to work on the budget.
Yep.
And so, you know, you can't cut taxes because we got to have them. This year, we caught up where we might be able to do some extra things to get us some good capital stuff that we've been lacking, and give our people some raises that they need that we hadn't been able to give them, where we can catch up with some surrounding towns around us. Everybody's paying more money than we're paying. Our public works people, a lot of them make less than the people that are working at McDonald's, and that's sad. But in order for Summerville to continue to be the type of town that our citizens say they want, and they do say this, they love Summerville, we got to be able to pay our people a decent wage where we can keep decent people. And we got good people working for Summerville, real good people. A lot of people have been working here for a lot of years, and they stay because they like it. They like their job. They're not staying for the money because they're underpaid when you compare us to other towns. So, that's really things wrapped up in a nutshell. Right there is we you're right. We're gonna grow. So we want to have the best town we can have. And to get the best people we can have, we got to have the best people running the town, the city fathers, and we got to have the best employees, and we all got. It goes back to that team thing. You know, we as elected officials have to be honest with our citizens, and our citizens have to be honest with us.
I think everyone I have crossed paths with here, but also myself as the PIO, it's important that we have full transparency to the max ability that we can have. And
Right.
that's one thing I do, and that's one reason we're starting this podcast is we can have these conversations and talk about things in a not so professional manner, more like a conversation. But this allows for our community to really kind of listen and understand things that are not being said behind, in town hall in the chambers, But this brings into my next point, which I think is really interesting. Community involvement is something that is important. We just kind of talked about that, that we have these meetings, but the community is not showing up to the meetings. What are some things that you wish you would see improve when it comes to community involvement? And then what are some things that we do as a town that really promote that community involvement here?
That's a good question, Chris, because our council meetings are. If I was just an ordinary citizen, never being involved in government, I probably wouldn't go to the council meetings anyway, either, because you get to a point where you're discussing something or you're going through your committee reports, and they say, well, we're going to have a second reading on our ordinance, and you read the TMS number, and you annexing something into the town, and you say, well, this is TMS number so and so, so and so, so and so, and so and so, and then you have a second reading. Well, the citizen's sitting out there, he don't know what in the devil you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then you go to the next thing, and it's similar, and then before you do that, you have first reading on the minutes of the previous meeting. Somebody makes a motion, we accept them as read, so you don't read the minutes. So the public sitting out there don't know what the minutes of the previous meeting said, so it's just a form. So unless you're really discussing something that's going to take place, or something that you're going to build something, then the public's not going to be too much interested in it.
Yeah.
So that's probably why you don't get too much participation from the public.
It's the public is interested, the community is interested in those and more topics that affect them, and
Right.
that something that is going to, involve their daily life.
Right.
And
If it's an annexation of I'll use something that just happened. We talk about annexing this property where a shelter was going for the homeless. Well, that subdivision next to that shelter, they got up in arms. Well, they showed up in full force. See, so because they cared about what was going next to their subdivision.
Of course.
So they got a personal interest in it. So they come in full force. Well, you have those things happen all the time. Not all the time, but a good bit. When it affects you, then you come to the council meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and that was advertised pretty good. So I got a few friends that live in that subdivision. I let them know what was happening. I also told them, if I was living where you lived, I would want it in town, because I knew that the county was going to build it anyway, let them build it anyway. And the county can't furnish the services that we can as good, so let it come into town and let it be built in town, and we can furnish better services than the county can. Not to knock the county, we just got more people and a fire station being built right across the street.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and in council, you and council really had the mindset of we want to do what the community wants to do, right?
Right,
And so
right.
both you as mayor, but also council members, y'all really kind of you went and talked to the community. You listened to what people thought, and at the end of the day, that it being in town, you know, in the town limits, does provide more safety to the community because we are going to be able to get there quicker. The services when it comes to fire, police, because we're right there,
Yeah, that's
and
exactly
so
right.
it makes sense. And when it comes to community involvement, that's something that obviously I have my hand on as the PIO, and you know, I'm looking to seeing how we can increase the participation at the councils meetings, and where it's not such you know it involves you, but maybe just getting the community more interested in some of the things that's going on here. So maybe sometimes it's just making the reading a little bit more fun.
Yeah, yeah.
It can be very daunting to read some of the documents. So what are some ways that we can put it over a podcast, or we could put it into an infographic or a video that is a little bit more appealing to watch or read or listen to, whereas just to read off of a professional document that's put into place. So, those are things that we can look forward to. But overall, I think we're all on the same page that we are all, advocates for involvement from the community, and we definitely all want the community to get more involved. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, I think that every councilman we got and myself, what we do is serve the citizens, and what we build and what we buy, like capital improvements, trucks, fire trucks, public works vehicles, police cruisers, all that stuff belongs to the citizens, and we buy it for the citizens for their
Mm-hmm.
protection. There's nothing there for us. I mean, other than we're citizens of the town.
Yep.
you know, and we listen to our department heads, and when they need stuff, we try our best to get it for them. And I don't think anybody that I know of that's been working for the town for the last 4 years since I've been here, last 3.5 years, are asking for anything that they don't need. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I know for the last 2 years they hadn't asked for anything because we told them we didn't have any money to buy it,
Yep.
and so they hadn't got any capital stuff. But we're trying to keep up, and it's just like the flooding, for an example. I mean, my backyard floods every time it rains hard, because
Yep.
I live right on one of the big canals in Summerville. It gets
Yep.
in my garage. I don't get to complain because I'm the mayor, and they don't. My canal is not scheduled to be worked on for several more years, Russ said. And that's fine with me. The town will get to it when it's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Some people's patience are very short with that water, and I don't blame them. Because I've been out there when it's gotten in people's houses.
Yeah.
And that makes me want to cry. Because we can't do anything about that. I mean, we're working on it. But everything that we do, we're doing for them.
Yep.
And some of them just get aggravated with us, and they say we're not doing enough. But in the end, and this goes for just about everything we do, because people want pickleball courts, people want all kind of stuff. But in the end, it all boils down to the dollar. We got so much money, and people don't want to be taxed,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't want fees put on. Well, you can want all that stuff, but it's just like the guy sitting home that wants a new car. He can't go buy it if he doesn't have the money. Well, we can't fix some of that flooding stuff, and we can't go build that pickleball court and do stuff like that till we get the dollar to do it.
Yeah.
And people don't want the taxes raised. We had to raise them last year, and if we're going to grow, and we can stop some of these big subdivisions from coming in here. I mean, we don't have to issue them a permit. I mean, we can stop them, and we don't have much land left where we can let any big subdivisions come in. But and we can fix it where bigger houses have to come in where they pay more tax, where they're um, appraised at a bigger value, where their tax dollars actually bring us more money. Where because most of the subdivisions we brought in, they actually a losing proposition. But people are still going to come even
Yeah.
if they live out of town.
Yep.
So like you say, if we could get our citizens to team up with us, I really believe that, and I've said this before and repeat myself, but our citizens and our council and mayor and staff need to work together to keep this a good town, because it's a great town. I mean, like I said, I've been here 75 years almost. I ain't quite 75 yet, but I will be by the time my mayor's term's over. And I've been here the whole 75 years. And I loved it when it was small, when the roads were dirt and I could ride horses in these roads in Summerville. And my granddaddy had horses right in his stables behind his house right at the end of 2nd South Street. And I grew up riding horseback and had a great time. But I still have a great time like it is now too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's grown.
Yeah.
But I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I mean, Summerville's been good. I've made a good living here. And all my children, all 3 of my children work here and make their living here. They hadn't had to go a place. And if Summerville would have stayed like it was 75 years ago when I was born, if it would have stayed like it was then, or even when I was graduated from high school, if it had stayed like that, my children would have had to go somewhere else to find a job.
Yeah.
And, and so I'm glad it grew. But, I'm proud of this town.
Yeah.
I'm proud when it's grown,
Yeah.
And people come here because most people that come here like it. That's why they stay.
Yep. I think we're all excited to see where everything's going to go with Summerville, and the growth is there, and but at the same time we do have history here, and so how to hopefully we have the right people in the right seats to lead us and the community in a way that we can continue to preserve, but also continue to upgrade and innovate. So,
me too. Yeah.
But Mayor Waring, I think that's everything I got from me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me and joining the first episode of Town Talk, which is really exciting.
I enjoyed being here, Chris. I really did.
Yeah, no. So thank you so much, and we appreciate your dedication and your hard work for the town. And I know you're ending your term, but you are here every day. I can advocate for that, and you are working hard for the town, and so it is appreciated. And and I look forward to continuing to work with you and continuing to build this podcast and Town Talk as a whole. But thank you so much for being our first inaugural guest.
Thank you. I'm glad to be first.